Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined in the studio this week by the lovely and talented Stephen Elizabeth Porter.
Hello.
And back on the controls, the lovely and talented Oliver Green.
Hello. Thank you so much. That means a lot, Pete. It really does.
Don't oversell it.
Okay.
So this for our first show of 2017. I cannot believe we are now in 2017. But what we decided to do was kind of take a look back to the 5 best things Disney did in 2016, but also the 5 worst. So that's what we're going to focus on for this episode. And I think maybe what should we start with? Should we start with the worst or the best?
Let's do worst so that we can get positive as we go.
Okay, there you go. All right, so we're going to focus first then on the 5 things we think Disney screwed up royally in 2016. Number 5 on the list, and we talked about this before. The 3 of us talked about this before, so we don't have separate lists for this. Mm-hmm. But number 5 on the list is the $700 a day cabanas in the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
That should also be on a list of WTF moments, because when I heard that they were doing that,
yeah,
that was, I didn't use the acronym, like, what the are you doing? $700 cabanas in Tomorrowland just didn't make any sense, still doesn't make any sense.
It just looks incredibly out of place, too. And it also, there was a tweet or a Facebook comment or something, I can't remember at this point, that we saw immediately after it was announced that we were both cracking up at, that it's like the Magic Kingdom decides to open up FEMA tents in the middle of the Magic Kingdom. It just looks incredibly weird.
And it's just part of the narrative, which, we've talked about all year, the narrative of the seemingly desperate flailing moves to try and get extra money because they're so over budget on Shanghai and so under attendance levels at Shanghai.
And the crazy thing about it being a desperate move is that at the end of the day, there's 4 tents there that are going to get $700 or whatever. Is that couple $1,000 really worth upsetting most of the other guests that walk by and realize, like, oh, that's kind of weird that they have?
Well, I don't even know if that it necessarily upsets guests. I think what it has done is kind of further this colorblind PR issue that they've had for a while now, with price increases and all these upcharges and things like that. They're even more than they did in the past. They're getting this reputation of just being greedy and just everything's a money grab and there's no quality really attached to it. And this, the way they roll it out, the way they introduce it, these things just don't seem to be really well thought out. Now, some of them have been. Some of the extras that have been released, we're going to talk about that when we get to the 5 best, because a couple of those upcharges definitely made it onto our 5 best list.
Yep.
But a lot of them ended up looking like just desperate money grabs, and Disney just didn't listen to that feedback.
Yeah. And just talking about the tents themselves is like, being the Disney nerds that we are, like, we think of the Magic Kingdom as such a special place. Not that it's a sacred place, but it's like, you can't just put up, tents that look like you bought at Home Depot.
Yeah, temporary structures.
Yeah, right. It's not like, I understand that it would be a big investment to make it an actual structure, but you're right. The fact that it's like these temporary tents makes it look...
Well, it's also myopic in the sense that, you take a look at the political climate, and I'm not going to get into a political discussion, but, one of the lessons coming out of the 2016 election was this divide between, the 1% and the other 99. And again, where it's kind of just tone deaf from a PR standpoint is let's put these $700 tents up in the Magic Kingdom, $700 a day tents up in the Magic Kingdom, and we'll give you a nice seat for the fireworks and the parade. and a couple of sodas. And it just kind of reinforces that narrative and reinforces that already existing discomfort.
And what it does is it kind of puts down the add-ons that we do like, and the things, like there are legitimate things that Disney has as bonus things that we, like he said, we'll talk about. But when this tent story or stories like it come out, it kind of diminishes like people's perception of Disney, and then it's all just a bunch of add-ons and everything. And I think that stories like this, when it actually kind of follows through with that narrative, it hurts the rest of the perception.
And that also makes our list kind of good segue into the next item on the list of 5 things Disney got wrong was bad press and bad PR. And I'm not talking about things like, what happened around the Pulse shooting. I'm not talking about what happened with that tragic story of the little boy that got attacked and was killed in the lakes, in Bay Lake, by the alligator. I'm talking about the self-inflicted gunshot wounds that Disney issued to themselves with things just like the $700 cabanas.
Yep. Another one that we had talked about is the earlier this year they cut back the Streetmosphere characters at Hollywood Studios, and then not even a day later, I'm pretty sure it was just later that day, they then announced that the ticket prices were increasing, which both of those things are fine in a capitalist society. Both of those decisions as a business are fine, but putting them on the same day makes it look like, you're going to raise our prices but cut back on our entertainment.
And this is what I'm talking about, that they're not, they have been so used to being able just to do whatever they want and nobody really pushes back, and maybe there's a little grumbling here and there. That's changed. They haven't gotten the memo on that yet. And, you kind of take a look at, and look, I don't know this for a fact. Anecdotally, we've heard that crowds over the holiday period have been considerably lower than they have been in years past. And there's some making the argument that the price point of this stuff has just gotten to the threshold that a lot of people are starting to back away from going to Disney. Now, that may be true. It may be that I don't know. It could be a lot of things. But I could certainly see that being a plausible argument if, in fact, crowds were down this holiday season. But the bad press, I don't think Disney has really figured out yet that part of what is, because there's no doubt that attendance is down. In general, attendance is down. And I'm not saying it's because of this bad PR, but this bad PR isn't helping, because you mentioned something like that where they cut, beloved characters, the Streetmosphere characters at Hollywood Studios, and then they raised the ticket prices the next day. Whereas if somebody was looking at this through a PR lens saying, okay, we know we're going to do this, or we're going to cut this staff, or we're going to make this cutback. We also know that we're going to do these price increases. Let's take a beat in between the announcements.
Right.
Let's take a week or two. Yeah. And so we'll announce the price increases, and then a week or two later we'll announce.
Do some fluff pieces in the middle.
If somebody was coordinating these messages and coordinating how these things got released, but it almost seems to me like different departments are just releasing what they're doing, and there's no gatekeeper. You look at the White House, the gatekeeper is the communications director. The communications director at the White House, his or her job is to coordinate the message and make sure that these things don't overlap, that at least what comes out of the White House doesn't overlap, and that you're not getting these sorts of problems. I cannot understand how an organization this size hasn't developed something along that line, or maybe they just don't care.
I think it comes from a place of them they used to really not have to care when they had no competition in town.
Right.
And now that they're living in a world where there is increasing competition from Universal, they're going to have to learn. And they better learn quick, because, they still own they're still king in Orlando. But, if they continue to just beat themselves up with stuff like this, like, yeah, it'll still be a while because they've been top dog for so long, but they're going to watch their market share bleed away.
And look, past is prologue. 7 years ago, it was inconceivable that Disney would ever lose market share to Universal. Inconceivable. Mm-hmm. Now, it's accepted. It's accepted fact. They have and will continue to lose market share to Universal, at least up until the point, in my opinion, that Star Wars Land opens. But that is a good 4 or 5 years away.
Yeah.
Before we see the full impact of that. Now, we do have Pandora, based on Avatar, opening at Animal Kingdom in 2017. That I do not think is going to be a strong enough. I'm very excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it. But I don't think it's going to be a strong enough draw. But we're going to get to that because that's another topic. But while we're talking about Animal Kingdom, let's talk about one of the other blunders made by Disney. And there are 2 items on the list, but they're both related to one another. The first is Jungle Book Alive with Magic. The one after that is Rivers of Light. So just to give a refresher, Rivers of Light, supposed to open Memorial Day weekend in 2016. A press event was set up around it. Invitations had gone out. Disney was set and ready to go. And then they announced, whoops, we're not ready. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it yet. There were a lot of technical challenges. There were barges sinking and things catching on fire and things not working because not everything was completely thought out. And as a result of that blunder, they had to hurriedly put together something as a nighttime show for Animal Kingdom. And what we got was Jungle Book Alive with Magic, which words like atrocious, confusing,
a jumbled mess,
awful, were some of the phrases and words used to describe this. And in my time, and I've been doing this for a couple decades now, in my time, I have never heard a Disney nighttime show referred to like that. I think there was one nighttime parade at Disneyland that was roundly hated, and I can't remember the name of it. I know it. I can't remember it off the top of my head. It was put together when Paul Pressler was president of Disneyland, most hated president of Disneyland in its history. And that parade, I think, goes down as one of the most hated. But these are very, very, very rare occurrences that a nighttime show at Disney is ever not met with anything other than, oh my God, that's incredible.
Amazing, yeah. Well, and a testament to that, or what can validate it for some, is Kathy, who usually loves everything Disney.
This is Kathy Whirling,
Kathy
member
Whirling
of our
from
team.
the Diz. After she saw the Jungle Book show, goes, I'm just gonna have to think about this one or something like that. She wanted to be positive about it, but she just had nothing to say.
Well, it just was, again, we talk about reactionary, these reactionary moves they make because they're trying to, fill a gap here or make some money over here, and they're kind of flailing about. And, this is probably one of the worst examples of that. Unfortunately, it was, critically anyway, a huge flop.
Yeah.
Most people that I've talked to, anecdotal, this was not a survey or anything, most people I've talked to and heard from, not fans of this.
Yeah, I have genuinely not met, hand on heart, not met one person that even thinks it's just okay. Everyone I've spoke to thinks it's just awful.
I've seen one or two things from some other websites that said they really liked it, but outside of that, everything that I've heard has been
well. And we talked about earlier with bad press. Is there stuff like bad press and then bad press that you can't control? So there were some things that we talked about they can't control that probably attributed to why, crowds were down. But this is something that they could have done right.
This was one of the self-inflicted gunshot wounds.
Yeah, this is another one where they did this to themselves. This was their problem and they caused it. So very sad.
So, the last thing on our list of things Disney got wrong in 2016 was the closing half of Hollywood studios. Now, arguments could be made that, and this is how I feel personally. Personally, I feel that, what we're going to end up with from Star Wars is going to be worth it when it finally opens, whenever that is. Disney has not announced an official opening date yet, but I think it will be worth it. However, in the interim, what we're dealing with is at best half a theme park. Mm-hmm. And a lot of attractions are gone. And, they started doing a nightly fireworks show, but then over the holidays, that gave way to a projection show where it looked like they were just trying to save money. Yeah. And so you have this, we're going to close half the park and we're going to add some stuff, but we're going to do it on the cheap. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to cut back on our streetmosphere entertainers. And we're going to charge you the same amount of money to get into that park as we always did. And again, it's myopic, it's tone deaf, whatever word you want to use or phrase you want to use to describe it. And then they wonder why, why are our numbers going down? Again, is it all because of this? No. But does this add into a larger narrative that is absolutely beating them over the head? Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't seem to me like they're getting it. Yeah,
they don't. There's a disconnect. They don't. And I don't think they're hearing their fans. I think that not that they don't. They're not even hearing their fans. They're not even willing to listen.
Well, here's the thing. And I've said it before. I will tell you right now. I've dealt with a number of people in management at Disney. I don't want to make an unfair statement here. I will say that there are people in management at Disney who roll their eyes when fans are mentioned. And again, that's the corporate arrogance that has formed over years of success. Yeah. That, no matter what we do, we're golden. And now that things have starting to go south, that they are getting real competition, that there has been a lot of bad press, some of it out of their control, some of it not. Attendance is starting to slide. They're under pressure from Burbank to bring in more revenue because they have to make up the U.S. parks seem to be charged with making up the losses from Shanghai. And the fans, no, you're right. I don't think they listen to the fans. I think they troll the internet for feedback. Mm-hmm. But the they're good at picking up like little like specific things. Like, oh, these bathrooms were dirty, or this was bad, or that was bad. They're good at picking up those things. They're not good at seeing the big picture, though. Mm-hmm. And the big picture here is the messages that are being sent out as a result of this. And at the end of the day, the messages are: you are too expensive, you don't care about the individual guest experience, and it's too damn crowded. And that's the narrative. And I think it started, even though I'm a fan of my Disney experience and FastPass Plus, I believe this problem that we're facing today started with that. Mm-hmm. Started with that. I've owned the Diz since 1997, coming up on 20 years. That's how long I've owned DizBoards.com. I have never seen the boards as negative as they have been since my Disney experience was announced. And whether I agree with that negativity or not doesn't matter. That is what it has become too complicated to plan a vacation. It has become too difficult. It has become too crowded. It has become too expensive. And these are the narratives that are out there. And, Disney executives will tell themselves, oh, but this, oh, but that, and they have their answers for everything. But the fact of the matter is those answers aren't resonating. And the audience, your visitors aren't responding to that. They don't see it that way. And unless you see it from their perspective and stop demanding that they see it from yours, these problems are going to continue.
I also just want to add off of that negativity is that I will get, sometimes when I write articles, I'll get some comments of, Steve, you're writing so much negative content about Disney. Well,
you're miserable. So,
no, my point is that I try to actually balance the good and the bad. But a lot of you guys, and maybe not you, but a lot of people out there will share and comment and pump up because they agree with the negative stuff right now because they are kind of PO'd with Disney.
Yeah.
And so that's what's doing well, not because I'm pushing it to be that way, but it's because
it's a reflection of what is.
Yeah, it's a reflection of what people are thinking right now.
Exactly. All right, go ahead. You have something?
No, I was just going to say I think it's incredibly sad. For the longest time, Disney could do no wrong, and I think they're still in that mindset. And the feedback's there, and they're just not listening.
Well,
it's awful.
Here's the deal. Just life experience. My life experience has been that when I'm not listening to if I'm not reading the writing on the wall, eventually reality has a way. Life has a way. The universe, God, whatever you want to say, has a way of getting that message across. And that will happen at some point. Really wonderful changes can come from really bad situations.
Yeah.
And I think any of us that have ever faced any challenges in our lives can say that, it was an awful time, but there was good that came from it. There was growth that came from it. There was change that came from it. That's what I hope. But we have talked about the 5 things we thought that Disney got wrong in 2016. The cabanas in the Magic Kingdom, some of the self-inflicted PR gunshot wounds, Jungle Book Alive with Magic, Rivers of Light, and the closing of half of Hollywood studios. But now let's change the focus. Let's switch over to what we think they got right, because there was a lot they got right in 2016 as well. And it'd be completely unfair to have this discussion without talking about that. First off are some of the new dining experiences. We've got and eating at Disney is one of my favorite things to do. I'm a little less on the favorite list now that I've lost weight, but still enjoy doing it. The reimagining of Flying Fish was a smashing success. Brilliantly done. Chef Tim Majoris did an incredible job. We have a review up that we did over the summer of the opening, which was a lot of fun to do that. Well, you weren't here.
I wasn't
That's
here
right.
for
You
that.
left us. Tiffin's, the restaurant at Animal Kingdom, the signature restaurant at Animal Kingdom, amazing. Phenomenal experience there. The boys, I haven't tried it yet, but the boys love Deluxe Burger.
Very good.
Art Smith's Homecoming, a lot of folks are loving that. We didn't have the best experience, but I think we may have had a one-off.
I think we have, because the majority I've heard feedback has always been so positive.
And it's not even relatively good. It's excellent. I mean, people are very passionate about it. So I really do think we had a one-off. We need to go back and do it again. But the entire, just the number of new dining experiences that are getting people excited and people are enjoying. It's a big part of your vacation.
And there's a big variety of new options, too. It's
Correct.
not like they just cater to table service or quick service or fine dining. There's everything. So.
And again,
Not to forget as well the new experience they added in for Christmas in Epcot with all the extra dining they added in there. So with the small booths, because every single one of those I've tried has been exceptional. It really has. It's been absolutely outstanding.
Well, I feel, this is not on the list, but it probably should be. Just overall, I found that at Epcot, the extension of the food and wine model, where we put the kiosks up with different types of food all around World Showcase. They do it, obviously. They started doing it with food and wine. They then extended it to be part of Flower and Garden, but they did a whole different whole different take on it. They're not just trying to, repeat Food and Wine. And then, as Oliver said, they did it over the holidays. Brilliant. And they have brought the quality of the food so far. So you're not just getting, this nice little tapas style, bites of food. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, with the stuff around, for the Christmas stuff, that these were much larger portions.
Yes, these were actually full size. Just to change up the format ever so slightly from what they have been doing, these were actually full size portions. This could replace a whole meal, and it was surprisingly a fraction of the price from what you'd expect for the quantity and the quality of the food. I was absolutely blown away. I really hope they bring this back next year for the holiday season, because it's been one of my favorite things this year. It really has.
I just think overall, Epcot, the best version of Epcot is festival-themed Epcot when it's doing, any of these types of things. And so the more of it, the better. And I feel like this year they really got it.
Well, I had worried with the addition of the food kiosks to Flower and Garden. I had worried that they were going to beat this horse to death, and that hasn't been the case. I feel like they change it up enough, and they really they change the offerings, the type of kiosks, the type of food, to really match the theme of the festival or whatever's going on. And as long as they keep doing that, as long as they keep letting their F&B people be creative, because that's what I see when I go around, for any of these things, what I see is, artists, F&B artists, food and beverage artists doing what they love and being allowed to do what they love. And so this is definitely food and beverage at Disney World in 2016. It was a very, very, very good year.
Yeah, very good year.
Probably the best in recent memory.
Yeah, especially because even years ago, I feel like Disney had a perception of, the Disney food is overpriced, it's this and that. But now that they're serving quality food, I feel like you're hearing less of, it's overpriced. Because even though, the prices haven't gone down, since the quality is getting better, the value is there now.
Agreed.
So less people are complaining about the price.
I just want to say as well that doing what we do, we get to meet a lot of different people in different areas. The food, and I know this is quite a blanket statement, but I truly mean this. The food and beverage people are arguably the most passionate team I've met at Disney. They know their stuff and they love it. They really do.
And it comes across in what you say. All right. Next on our list is annual pass holder appreciation. Now, there was a time that I complained loudly and frequently about the fact that annual pass holders here in Orlando were basically the redheaded stepchildren of Disney visitors. They were pulling back discounts. There was a time that the only merchandise discount you could get with an annual pass was the World of Disney in downtown Disney at that time. Now it's pervasive. And lots and lots of things happening for annual pass holders, up to and including over the holidays, adding a special entrance line for annual pass holders into the theme parks.
Yeah, and I really hope that test goes so well that they keep that, because that would just be so great.
Well, Disneyland relies on their annual pass holders. It's a massive part. It's more of a locals park than we are. And so they've always catered to their annual pass holders. World has not. Starting to see them borrow more of that attitude from Disneyland, and I hope it continues. Let's be honest. This isn't because they saw 3 ghosts on Christmas Eve and decided they're going to be nice to pass holders. This is because turnstile attendance is down in the parks. So they need to get more people in the parks, and they need to be reaching out to pass holders to bring in more new pass holders and encourage the ones who have passes to come more often. Because what happens when we go into the parks? We spend money. So let's not, again, this isn't, wow, we've really been kind of crappy to our pass holders. But I don't care. I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, and, I appreciate and give credit for what Disney has done this year, but I also would add on to that it's not over. Like, they're still, to be on the Disneyland type of appreciation of their annual pass holders, they still got a while to go. Or,
a long way to go.
Right. there's still room to work with, and still some stuff they can gain ground on to really show us that they can.
But I think they've made a lot of strides.
Yeah. I think this is the biggest year in recent memory of them actually doing something that's appreciated.
I think they've got to take you've got to take into account as well the kind of stuff Universal's been doing for their annual pass holders, and they must feel some heat from that to kind of step up their game as well. Because Universal this year especially have been outstanding. They've been doing special after-hour events just for their annual pass holders. I get a weekly email with special discounts that are just for me as an annual pass holder. They've really upped their game, and I think Disney has seen that and just trying to match them now.
Well, one of the things that we complained about as some of the things that Disney got wrong in 2016, we talked about some of the upcharges and things that they were adding to generate new revenue. But where they got some things really wrong, in my opinion, in our opinion, they got some things right. Mm-hmm. One of those things, probably, I would say, arguably, the thing they got most right with the upcharge is the express bus transportation for park hopping. This was something unexpected, where if you have a park hopper pass for $15 or $20, depending on, I think it's, what is it? It's like $19 or $24.
I think it's 20. I think it's 24.
24 for like a week.
Yeah.
You get access to special backstage bus transportation to the different theme parks, so that it cuts down on the amount of time it takes to go from one park to another. And our own Kathy Whirling did a review of this not too long ago, and she was able to hit all 4 theme parks, do some attractions, and have lunch in the span of 4 hours.
Yeah,
and she said it was phenomenal. So here we have something that is a real need. They're filling a real need. Mm-hmm. For people who want to get as much out of those park hoppers as they can. They're doing it for an incredibly reasonable price. Mm-hmm. And here's hoping it's a success and it continues.
Well, and it's another, it's a great addition for people that are doing short stays. I think that's a real need for a lot of people get intimidated by Walt Disney World because they say, that's massive. I don't know if I can do that all in the amount of time that I have for my vacation time. But this fills that need of, you can kind of conquer a lot of park, hours in a short amount of time. So, I don't know, that's a really good addition.
I agree. Another of the good additions, upcharges that Disney did in 2016, and I know that that there are a lot of people that are going to disagree with this, but the after hours parties in the Magic Kingdom. Everybody kind of looked at the price tag, because at that point it was $150. They've since lowered the price for the parties starting this month and moving forward. But people looked at $150 for 3 extra hours in the Magic Kingdom, and they lost their collective minds. But then when people actually started doing it, when people actually began to do it, all of a sudden you started seeing, hey, wait, this was really cool. Myself included. I was very skeptical of it when it was announced. Then I did it, and I thought it was the best $150 I ever spent at Disney World. That 3 hours to yourself, basically, because you have very few people in the park. Mm-hmm. Most of the attractions open. Soft drinks and ice cream are free. You were able to do pretty much all the rides you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to hit, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train 5 times, you could do it. There was a walk-on.
Yep.
And that's not something you're going to see during the day. You can barely get fast passes for it. And if you do wait in the standby line, there's a good hour and a half of your life gone. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, is it expensive? It is. But is there value for that? Well, for me, absolutely. And for a lot of other people, because I'm not the only one who feels this way.
Mm-hmm. It genuinely feels like you have the park rented out to yourself at certain parts throughout the night. Like, yeah, Main Street, you might see a couple other groups or whatever. But I remember I was walking through with Kathy and I think Rhino at one point. You were off with Corey taking pictures. And the three of us were walking through, and we were near that little area between Peter Pan and It's a Small World where it usually gets really crowded because it bottlenecks right there. But we were walking through and we looked around and it was like, yeah, we're the only ones here right now. Like, in that moment, we were by ourselves. The only other people were the cast members.
Kind of crazy, yeah.
And you don't see that.
No, you don't.
To say it's quiet is an understatement, because I was there that night. It was actually when I first came into the company, and it's a ghost town. It really is. It's not that it's just quiet and there's a couple of other people. There's parts of the park where you are like the only person there.
And
it's crazy.
It is an experience. You see the Magic Kingdom in an entirely different way.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. It is beautiful. And if you do like taking pictures, I'm going to tell you, you can get some absolutely stunning photographs without a lot of people or any people in it. So the After Hours event in the Magic Kingdom for me was absolutely one of the highlights of 2016. Finally on our list of things Disney absolutely got right in 2016, Disney Springs. I was always excited about Disney Springs. What I wasn't happy with was the complete and utter lack of planning for how they were going to manage the traffic that was going to be created when they shut down their parking lots. And I can remember leaving the boardwalk, driving up to Hotel Plaza Boulevard, that drive taking me 45 minutes because the traffic was at a dead stop. And they just did there was no consideration whatsoever of the guest experience in that construction process. However, once it was done, I used to say that I love downtown Disney in California so much more than ours. I can't say that anymore. I love downtown Disney in California, but you know what? Ours beats it now. Ours beats it. Between the number of shops that have opened, some really good shops that have opened, the dining options there, the atmosphere, just the general atmosphere and feel of the place. I have spent more time in the last year at Disney Springs than I think I have spent in the last 10 years at Downtown Disney combined. So, and they're still getting some things ready to open up. I mean, we're going to have Planet Hollywood's reimagination opening up soon. I thought the Coca-Cola store was a bit of a qua moment. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Really? But it's okay. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite things to do, and I'm doing it at least once or twice a month, heading down to the AMC, the Fork and Screen Theater at Disney Springs AMC, having dinner and a movie, and then going over to Sprinkles for Captain Crunch ice cream. Life is good. Life is good. Loving, 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 loving Disney Springs. They nailed it completely. They did a brilliant, beautiful job with it.
I think not only is it beautiful, and they, like you said, they did a great job, but I also think just the expansion of it also helped the crowd of it kind of spread people out in a sense that I remember before the construction over by the Lego store or whatever, you're walking through like this to try to get from one side to the other because there's just so many people.
All the bottlenecks, yeah.
Yeah, and now that's kind of all been dispersed amongst the expansion, and it makes the whole experience that much better because you can actually enjoy yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it wasn't, especially that area we're talking about, was not enjoyable. It was it was so anxiety ridden going through there because you're like this with everybody. But they really nailed it. So new dining experiences around property, the annual Passholder appreciation, express bus transfer service between the parks for park hoppers, after hours events in the Magic Kingdom and the entirety of Disney Springs. Top out our top 5 things Disney got right in 2016. And that is going to do it for this episode. Next week, we'll tell you the top 5 things we are most looking forward to this year, 2017. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time. Have a great week.